On the night of November 24, 1971, a man calling himself Dan Cooper bought a one-way ticket, hijacked a commercial airliner, collected $200,000 in cash, and stepped out into the freezing darkness 30,000 feet above the earth. He was never seen again. This is the story of the only unsolved airplane hijacking in American history. A mystery that has haunted the FBI for over 50 years. A phantom who outwitted an entire nation and vanished into legend. It was the day before Thanksgiving, 1971. Portland International Airport was bustling with holiday travelers heading home to their families. Among them was a middle-aged man, somewhere in his mid-40s, with dark receding hair and olive skin. He wore a dark business suit, a white shirt, a narrow black clip-on tie with a mother-of-pearl tie clip, and carried a black attaché briefcase. He approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter and purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle. The fare was $20. The name on his ticket, Dan Cooper. At 2:50 p.m. Pacific Time, Northwest Orient Flight 305 lifted off the runway, a Boeing 727-100 carrying 36 passengers and 6 crew members. The flight to Seattle would take approximately 30 minutes. But this routine journey was about to become anything but ordinary. Shortly after takeoff, the man in seat 18C, the rear of the aircraft, right side, pressed his service call button. Flight attendant Florence Schaffner approached him. He handed her a folded note. Schaffner, accustomed to receiving phone numbers from forward passengers, slipped the note into her pocket without reading it. The man leaned forward. His voice was calm but firm. "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Schaffner opened the note. The message was direct and chilling. He claimed to have a bomb in his briefcase. He demanded $200,000 in negotiable American currency for parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the aircraft. If his demands were not met, he would blow up the airplane. The note ended with 2 words, "No funny stuff." Schaffner immediately notified the cockpit. Captain William Scott, a seasoned pilot with over 20 years of experience, radioed Seattle-Tacoma Airport. The message was relayed to Northwest Orient's headquarters in Minnesota, and from there to the FBI. Meanwhile, the man who would become known as D.B. Cooper sat calmly in his seat. When flight attendant Tina Mucklow approached to verify his demands, he opened his briefcase just enough for her to see a glimpse of red cylinders, wires, and what appeared to be a battery. Whether it was a real bomb or an elaborate bluff, no one would ever know for certain. At 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. The aircraft taxied to a remote area of the tarmac, away from the main terminal. Outside, FBI agents, police officers, and airline officials scrambled to meet the hijackers' demands while 36 terrified passengers waited inside the cabin. Cooper's instructions were precise. He wanted the money delivered in a knapsack, not a briefcase. He specified that the bills must be $20 notes, unmarked and non-sequential. The FBI complied, but they also made a crucial decision: every single bill would be photographed and its serial number recorded. 10,000 $20 bills. 10,000 chances to eventually catch the hijacker. At 5:45 p.m., a Northwest Orient employee approached the aircraft stairs carrying a canvas bank bag containing exactly $200,000. 4 parachutes, 2 military-issue back parachutes and 2 front reserve chutes, were also delivered. The passengers were released. Cooper kept the flight crew, Captain Scott, First Officer William Radazak, Flight Engineer Harold Anderson, and Flight Attendant Tina Mucklow, who had become his primary point of contact throughout the ordeal. Cooper's next instructions were remarkable for their technical sophistication. He ordered the pilots to fly to Mexico City at the lowest possible altitude, under 10,000 feet, and at the slowest possible airspeed the aircraft could safely maintain with landing gear and wing flaps deployed. This configuration, known as dirty, would allow the rear air stair to be opened in flight. He also demanded that the cabin remain unpressurized. At 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 took off from Seattle with its skeleton crew and one hijacker carrying a fortune. Two F-106 fighter jets from McCord Air Force Base secretly shadowed the aircraft, but they stayed at a higher altitude, unable to track the plane visually in the dark, stormy night. Somewhere over the dense wilderness of southwest Washington state, between Seattle and Reno, D.B. Cooper made his move. He sent Tina Mucklow to the cockpit and ordered her to stay there. Then, alone in the rear of the aircraft, he lowered the aft air stair. The crew felt a subtle change in air pressure at approximately 8 p.m. 13 minutes later, at 8:13 p.m., the aircraft experienced a sudden oscillation, the tail pitched upward, then settled back. The flight crew noted it in their logs. D.B. Cooper had jumped. He leaped into a freezing rainstorm with temperatures well below zero and wind chill factors approaching -60 degrees Fahrenheit. He was wearing only his business suit, loafers, and a lightweight overcoat. He carried $200,000 strapped to his body. And he vanished into the most rugged, unforgiving wilderness in the continental United States. When Flight 305 landed in Reno, Nevada, at 11:02 p.m., the rear air stair was down and Cooper was gone. All that remained were 66 unsmoked Raleigh filter-tip cigarettes in an ashtray, 2 of the 4 parachutes, his clip-on tie, and his mother-of-pearl tie clip. The FBI launched the largest manhunt in the Bureau's history. They called it NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking. Agents combed the suspected drop zone, an area of dense forest, steep ravines, and treacherous terrain covering over 200 square miles. They interviewed witnesses, analyzed the evidence, and compiled a list of more than 800 suspects. They found nothing. For 9 years, the case went cold. Then, on February 10, 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was on a family outing along the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington. While digging in the sand to build a campfire, he unearthed 3 bundles of waterlogged, deteriorating $20 bills. The serial numbers matched. This was Cooper's money, $5,800 of the original ransom, the first and only physical evidence ever recovered. But the discovery raised more questions than it answered. The location where the money was found didn't match the FBI's calculated drop zone. How did the bills travel over 30 miles from the suspected jump site? Did Cooper bury them there himself? Did he survive and spend years living anonymously before dying and the money eventually washing downstream? The FBI subjected the bills to extensive forensic analysis. The degradation pattern suggested they had been in the water for several years, ruling out the possibility that Cooper or an accomplice had recently planted them. Over the decades, numerous suspects emerged. Robert Rackstraw, a decorated Vietnam veteran with extensive parachute training and a history of fraud, was investigated for years. Richard Floyd McCoy Jr., who committed a nearly identical hijacking just 5 months after Cooper and was eventually killed in a shootout with the FBI, was long considered a prime suspect. Kenneth Christensen, a former Army paratrooper who worked as a purser for Northwest Orient, was championed by his own brother as the likely culprit. Perhaps the most intriguing suspect was Sheridan Peterson, a former smokejumper with intimate knowledge of the Pacific Northwest terrain. In 2011, a woman named Marla Cooper came forward claiming her uncle, Lynn Doyle Cooper, had confessed to the crime on his deathbed. The FBI investigated but found insufficient evidence to confirm the claim. None of these suspects could ever be definitively connected to the hijacking. In July 2016, after 45 years of active investigation, the FBI officially suspended the D.B. Cooper case. They cited the need to redirect resources toward more pressing matters. But they never formally closed it. The case file remains open, and the Bureau has stated they will review any credible physical evidence that emerges. So what happened to D.B. Cooper? The pessimistic view, held by many FBI agents, is that he died that night. The jump conditions were nearly impossible: sub-zero temperatures, 100-mile-per-hour winds, total darkness, and terrain that has swallowed men without a trace. He was wearing street clothes and dress shoes. His reserve parachute was a dummy training chute that wouldn't have opened. Even an experienced skydiver would have faced terrible odds. The romantic view, embraced by Cooper's legion of admirers, is that he pulled off the perfect crime. He landed safely, buried the money, and lived out his days as an ordinary citizen, perhaps your neighbor, your coworker, the quiet man who kept to himself. The money found on the riverbank? A deliberate plant to throw off investigators. Or perhaps he lost some during the jump and the rest remains hidden somewhere in the wilderness, waiting to be discovered. The truth is, we may never know. What we do know is this: D.B. Cooper, whoever he was, committed the only unsolved airplane hijacking in American history. He carried out his plan with remarkable composure, showed unexpected courtesy to his hostages, and stepped into the void with a fortune strapped to his chest. He left behind nothing but questions, and a legend that refuses to die. 50 years later, amateur investigators still comb the forests of the Pacific Northwest. Retired FBI agents still receive tips. Deathbed confessions continue to surface. The case file remains technically open, waiting for that one piece of evidence that will finally solve the mystery. Somewhere out there, buried under decades of fallen leaves and forgotten memories, the answer waits. Perhaps in the bones of a man who died that cold November night. Perhaps in a safety deposit box, a hidden journal, or the failing memory of an accomplice. Perhaps the truth died with Cooper himself, whoever he was. But until that day comes, the legend endures. D.B. Cooper, the man who beat the system, vanished into thin air, and became the greatest unsolved mystery in American criminal history. If this case intrigued you, subscribe and hit the bell for more unsolved mysteries and true crime stories.